Hi everyone, and it's good to be back here on this Saturday, and I'd like to welcome all the people who have really been supporting this effort to talk about a lot of different things, especially anxiety and grief and the complexion of grief and how complicated it is. And it's wonderful to hear the many stories, the creative stories, the stories of what you've done in the course of your day to make it count. And I'm Edie Nathan. I'm a psychotherapist here in New York City, and I really want to continue to listen to what everybody's saying about what this experience is like for them. So, what I thought that we'd do today is actually focus in on anxiety because, during the week, Monday through Friday, and sometimes I don't know about you all, but I've been like losing the days of the week a little bit. Like, what day is today? And it's easy to do when we don't have a place to go or people to meet. And again, having that schedule is so very important. And it's one way to combat anxiety. So I welcome you today to talk about anxiety, to talk about what's how it's affecting you, how it moves through your body, or how you think about it. And I was talking to a really good friend this morning, and she was saying that she had an anxiety attack yesterday, and she hadn't had an anxiety attack since she was in her 20s. As a result, she just burrowed into her bed and slept and listened and got in touch with her breath. And after a couple of hours of some sleep and rest, she was able to calm down. And there are lots of ways that we can calm ourselves when we're in the middle of anxiety or in the middle of that sense of doubt. And anxiety is one of the phases in grief. It's one of those phases that again can come in and leave. And there's a difference between anxiety and a panic attack. A panic attack usually happens when we're thinking about something catastrophic that has yet to happen. It's future thinking. It's creating a picture of worst case scenario. Something bad's going to happen. It's a projection. It's a narrative that we create, and it's very hard to soothe ourselves. And once the heart starts to pound or the hands begin to shake, the brain actually begins to shut down, and all that good, positive energy that we have in our brains, those links that we have in our brains that allow us to calm down, they're null and void in the middle of a panic attack. So I thought we'd talk about dealing with anxiety and dealing with panic. Now, as I spoke to you all a few days ago, I know what it is to be in panic and to be actually completely agoraphobic. And the techniques that I learned helped me to survive, helped me to get out and ride a bus, ride the subway, drive, take an elevator. It hit every part of my life. And I felt so fragile. And really, this pandemic is making many folks feel a fragility because of a lack of power, because of a lack of being able to do something and change the situation. So the only one you can change is you. And yesterday I read there's a monster at the end of this book, good old Grover. And in a way, we're having to face our monsters. We're having to look in the mirror and see what comes up. And if we're not looking, sometimes it just knocks. It just keeps knocking. So I have a pirate's chest on my fridge, and it's not working right now. But this pirate's chest, this magnet, when you push the button, there's a knock, 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 and it says, "Let me out of here! Let me out of here!" And that's how panic feels. That's how anxiety feels. It's like it's gripping. It causes internal reactions and unrealistic thinking that really brings you down. So, one of the first things that I learned in my panic and in my moments of feeling such fear that I couldn't walk outside was to ground myself. And yeah, there are breathing exercises to help ground, but sometimes it's even hard to do those. And I get that. I really get it. So remember, panic is a form of grief. It's a form of loss. It's a form of, I don't know where I am. I don't know where I'm going. I feel so lost. And I feel as if like someone or some entity has taken over my brain, my body, my soul. I don't feel anything like myself. So what I'd like you to do, and it's really, really easy if you're feeling this way, in being present, is to look around your space and start identifying objects. I know it sounds simple, but all you're going to do for a minute, 2 minutes, is just look around the room and say, oh, I see a clock. I see a screen. I'm going to look at how this screen is made. I see a shade. I see a picture that I love that's on the wall, and I'm going to trace all the lines in that picture with my eyes. And what you'll notice if you do this often is that it actually grounds you, because it's really hard to think of two things at the same time, and you're tricking your brain. You're getting your brain out of the temperament that it's in, and you're breaking its cycle. And when you break that cycle, the negative narrative, the anxious narrative that you're getting, it breaks the cycle enough so you can feel a little bit more calibrated. We talk about calibration. Calibration is like balance. It's that place on the seesaw where you're balanced. Have you ever been on a seesaw? I used to love seesaws, and there was always that like place that you tried to get to where your feet weren't touching the ground and you were right there. You were right there in balance, calibrated in partnership. So I'd like you to think about this tracking exercise as a way to get to calibration, as a way to calm the self and calm the breath. Now, once you do that exercise, you might need to do it a couple of times. The next thing you can do is then go to your breath. Because when in a place of panic, you feel like you can't breathe. And you are breathing, because if you weren't breathing, you wouldn't be here. And I say that jokingly, but I also say that in all seriousness. So what you need to do in that moment when you feel like I'm not catching a breath, it's because you're not really able to fill your lungs the way that helps you to feel like you're getting enough oxygen. So what you're going to do is you're going to take in the tiniest breath. You're just going to go, and then you're going to hold it, and then you're going to blow it out. And then you're going to do another, and you're going to hold it, and then you're going to let it out. And this is a yogic breathing, but you're going to put your thumb on one nostril, and then you're going to breathe in as much as you can, but with no stress. And then you're going to hold the other nostril and you're going to breathe out. What did you notice? Was there a calming? Was there a soothing? Was there something that actually changed and shifted in your mind, in your body, in your soul? Because if it did change, that's great. And if it didn't, that's okay too. Don't get down on yourselves if this isn't working. You know, we're living in a culture right now where we need things immediately, and sometimes this process or these processes take time. They take our bodies having what's called muscle memory. And part of learning how to deal with panic is incorporating what sports people call muscle memory, like golfers. I'm not a golfer, but I come from a family of golfers. And so their bodies, when they hit that ball time and time and time again, or a tennis player, or someone who plays volleyball, our bodies remember and they track what's going on. So there's muscle memory to an anxiety reaction. There's muscle memory to a phobic reaction. It's like that heart starts beating faster than normal and it's like, I'm off to the races. It's like, okay. First thing I need to do is look around the room. Second thing I need to do is do that rhythmic breathing. If those two things don't work, okay, they didn't work this time. Again, there's no right or wrong. And it is black and white thinking that's very much part of anxious thinking, of phobic thinking. And we're living, of course, in this pandemic, in this global grief. And the global grief and the global fear is in and of itself infectious. There's a lot of different poisons that we're dealing with right now. And it's causing us to maybe break down a little bit, have a 4-hour moment of just, I can't do this right now, or I can't do this. How am I gonna do this? And that's the third piece today, is your brain. Your brain is your greatest ally. It's what helped me break out of my anxiety and my phobias. I had to learn how to talk to myself, how to talk to myself in a really different way. Because I can tell you, I used to get out of the subway and sometimes I'd get such a racing heart, and I'd have to walk close to buildings just to navigate. And I'm sure I looked ridiculous, but I know that I felt like I was going to die. And it wasn't until I learned how to do the first and the second exercise, and then learned about my brain and how much of a relationship me and my brain have. And my brain will actually listen to me if I give it different messages. Like all those neural connections, it's kind of like an octopus with all of its different tentacles, right? So you can tap into those tentacles. They're far reaching and they can really, really change the way your brain works, change the way you hold anxiety, change the way you deal with this really hard time, this pandemic of COVID-19, this pandemic of fear that is certainly gripping, and this pandemic of grief and loss. So this is about changing the way you're giving messages to your brain. So you might be saying, I can't do this. You might be saying, I'm stuck in this pattern. And even those two thoughts, or as we say in the field, cognitions, can be challenged. I can't do this right now. Well, what's the picture of that? What would doing it look like? And change the thought. Okay, but there are things that I can do. I can take in a breath. I can identify things around the room. I can spray some cologne or perfume, because we also know that scent is one of the number one shifters in our brains. Do you have something that brings you back to a wonderful memory? Go to that place. Do you have a blanket or a scent or a favorite TV show that enables you to actually feel differently while you're watching or while you're experiencing that memory? And you can begin to create a memory blog for yourself. It's not to be published necessarily. And this memory blog is like, it's like your bank of memories. It's your go-to. This was a good memory. I'm going to go there right now. And I'm going to fill in all the details, and I'm going to remember the fullness of that memory. And I'm going to rewrite it, or I'm going to share it with someone. So that is part of changing the brain, is changing the narrative from I can't to I'm going to do this differently. I'm going to shift the story. And what I know is that you can do this. You can do this. And you got this. Because our brains are ours, and we have the power of our brains to shift negative into positive. Shift the anxiety into breathing more freely. Shift the narrative of the panic and the projection to being in the here and now. The here and now. So I hope those are some good takeaways for you today on this Saturday. Get in touch with 3 people. Share something that's wonderful about what you're learning about yourself. Share something you're struggling with. And share something that maybe made you smile. I'd like to leave you today with a little part of a poem by Oriah Mountain Dreamer. She is one of my favorite poets, and she ends with, I want to know if you can be alone with yourself, and if you truly like the company you keep in the empty moments. And these empty moments are filled with mystery and curiosity, and you can change the emptiness into illumination. Happy Saturday. You got this. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.